It started with a single word, uneducated, a word meant to dismiss, to wound, to belittle. But what followed left an entire audience silent, some with tears in their eyes. What began as a heated political exchange turned into one of the most powerful moments of humility and human connection seen in modern American politics. During a recent televised debate, tensions between Representative Adam Schiff and independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. ran high. The two had clashed over issues ranging from public health policy to government transparency. Schiff, known for his sharp rhetoric, accused Kennedy of spreading misinformation and went further, calling him uneducated about science and the modern world. It was a pointed jab, one that seemed to echo through the hall. For a moment, Kennedy said nothing. The cameras zoomed in as expression steady but pained. Then he leaned toward the microphone and began to speak. Uneducated, he repeated softly, almost to himself. You know, I've been called a lot of things in my life. Conspiracy theorist, idealist, dreamer. I can handle all that. But uneducated. He paused. Let me tell you a story. The audience shifted in their seats as Kennedy began recounting a memory, not from politics, but from his childhood. He spoke of growing up in the long shadow of tragedy, of losing his father, Robert F. Kennedy, to an assassin's bullet when he was just 14 years old. People think education only comes from classrooms, he said, but when you lose your father in front of the world, when you see what hate and violence can do, you learn lessons no school could ever teach. Kennedy described how, after the assassination, he spiraled into grief and rebellion, eventually finding solace in books, nature, and his family's legacy of public service. He spoke of studying law, of dedicating decades to environmental justice, of standing in courtrooms against some of the largest corporations in the world. I may not always agree with the mainstream narrative, he said, his voice rising with emotion, but I have studied, I have fought, and I have lived my education. The hall had fallen silent. Even Schiff appeared moved, as earlier smirk replaced by quiet reflection. Then Kennedy told another story, one few had ever heard. He spoke of a small boy he met years ago during one of his environmental missions in Appalachia. The boy's family had lost everything to polluted water from a nearby mining operation. The child, barely 10, had said something that stayed with Kennedy ever since. Mr. Kennedy, nobody listens to us cause we're not smart like them. Kennedy paused, eyes glistening. That's when I realized, he said, education isn't about titles or degrees, it's about compassion, about the courage to stand for truth when it's unpopular. The audience erupted into applause. Some stood, others wiped away tears. Even Schiff, after a long moment, extended his hand. I may disagree with you, Schiff said, but I respect your conviction. Kennedy shook his hand and smiled faintly. That's all any of us should ask for, he replied. Respect. The clip went viral overnight. Millions watched as a man once branded uneducated turned a political insult into a profound lesson on humanity. Commentators from both sides of the aisle weighed in, some praising Schiff's humility in the end, others admiring Kennedy's grace under fire. But beyond the politics, it was the emotional honesty of the exchange that resonated. In an era of shouting matches and online outrage, this moment reminded people that empathy and personal truth still have power. By the next morning, social media was flooded with messages from teachers, veterans, single parents, and workers who felt seen by Kennedy's words. One tweet summed it up perfectly. He reminded us that being educated isn't about how many degrees you have, it's about how much you've learned from life. In the days that followed, Kennedy's poll numbers ticked upward. But more importantly, the conversation around what it means to be educated began to shift. Across podcasts, classrooms, and kitchen tables, people started asking, do we value knowledge, or do we only value credentials? That night, Kennedy posted a short message on his campaign page. Never let anyone tell you that your experience doesn't count. The world's greatest teachers are not always found in universities, sometimes they're found in pain, loss, and love. And perhaps that was the real lesson. In a world divided by politics and pride, one moment of humility turned an insult into inspiration, and reminded us all that wisdom is not measured by diplomas, but by the depth of a person's heart. Because sometimes, the most educated person in the room is the one who has truly lived.